Thank you everyone for joining us for this webinar about mixing down studio creations for live shows presented by Ryan Logue. My name is Laura Lawrence and I'm the Global Marketing Director at Harman. Just a few things before we get started. Everyone on the call is muted to keep down noise levels during the webinar. However, there is a chat function where you can submit questions and we'll consolidate those and answer them at the end. This webinar is also being recorded and the link will be made available a few days after this presentation. We do have a number of other webinars taking place over the next few months for audio, lighting, video, and control, and we'd like to encourage you to take a look at the different webinars in our Learning Sessions Workshop Series that can be found on pro.harman.com, as well as visiting Harman Professional University to see our many on-demand and certification courses that are available to you for free. And now I'd like to introduce you to Ryan Logue, the presenter for today's webinar. Ryan Logue is the owner of Atlanta-based event production company One Shot Productions, where he directs a team to produce world-class events. In his 24 years of experience as an audio engineer, composer, and musician, Ryan has worked with recording studios, theaters, system installations, and festivals. And now I'll pass the mic over to you, Ryan.
Thank you, Laura. Hi, everybody. I hope your day is going well. So today I'm going to be discussing kind of a cool subject that's pretty close to my heart. I have done this for a really long time, and it's a kind of system I've developed over the years from the bands I've been in. It's been always a practical solution for us to try and play along with tracks that we record. So basically what I'm going to show you how to do today is simulate as if though you were in the studio recording a band, or even if you were recording an electronic music project and just adding tracks to a DAW, like Logic. We're going to use Logic because I think it's just easy to use and simple to see, and there's lots of free, easy stuff we can use. I can just find some good samples that we can throw in there without much effort. So we're going to take the channels in Logic, and they're going to then be monitored back onto the console itself. So that will be fun because then you can take the laptop that you record in the studio and the recordings and the Soundcraft Si Impact console to your show, and it's basically set up and ready to go. You may have to ring the room out, and you may need to adjust some EQ here and there, but all of your effects will be ready to go. You can do even automation and all types of cool stuff to keep things going. So I'm going to walk over here to the console and start walking you through basically the idea of the setup that I do when I make this happen. The Soundcraft Impact console has a card in the back of it that's MADI or /USB. Now the MADI side of it is specifically for devices that are on-coded with MADI to interface with it, kind of in the same way we're going to do with Logic, but we're actually going to be using the USB half of that. And it doesn't really, MADI doesn't really come into play. It's more just a USB channel-to-channel function. So as we plug in the USB from the console to our DAW, you'll see that it comes up and shows MADI-USB combo. You want to make sure that's your device that's selected when you do that. But we'll come back over here to the console and I'll quickly explain to you what is going on. We're going to go to channel 1 of the very first channel, and I'm going to keep the screen showed up here because this is just, it's easier to see right now. I can zoom out and you can see I've got the whole console here, and I will come out and do some stuff that will, involve that. But for now, I'm just going to come in here real close, and I'm going to make sure that, we're in focus and you can see what I'm talking about. And I'm going to select channel 1. I'm going to go to the inputs section of this console, and this is where you edit kind of what's going on with the channels. Now, the basic concept here is we want as we're recording, we want the input channels to be coming from the back of the board. We want our microphones to be plugging in, and then we want our direct out patch right here beneath the input patch. Our direct outs, after it passes through the channel, goes through to our board, or to our DAW, Logic in this case. So once we have that set up, we come here and find the MADI USB card selection. And you don't actually go to channel 1. That's like I said earlier, this is a MADI/USB card. And the MADI side of it is for devices. So we're going to skip through the first 32 channels that are set aside for the MADI devices and actually start on 33. So to us, in this world, as we're interfacing with Logic, 33 is our channel 1. Sort of confusing. I think it actually kind of makes sense, but only if you've worked with lots of channels lots of times in your life would you really think that makes sense. So we're going to go through the line here and basically make sure that all of our channels, I'll see I've got channel 1 here, and I've made sure it's at, input or outputting at its direct out to channel 33. I'm going to go down to channel 2. I'm going to do 34 and then just go down the line. You can hit autocomplete and it'll go through and do the rest of them for you, so you don't even have to keep going, and I can just confirm that that happened. And we'll keep going all the way through the first 16 channels. So we'll do 2 8 blocks here, because even though we have 32 channels to go back and forth with, I like to monitor while I'm recording, and that becomes more of a personal preference, but I think that it makes sense because this makes it so you can immediately take the console out onto the road, and you don't have to have 2 separate scenes where one set for the board is going to be all for recording and one set for the board is all for playback. This gives you 16 channels to always record on, and then 16 channels to always play back on. So in order to do that, I like to keep my 2 layers of channels separated. On the Impact console, I'll zoom out here a little. You see we've got the first layer shows 24 channels. Well, the 24 channels here, I want to actually just show 16 because I've got 4 layers. So the first layer I'm going to keep here is like this. I'm going to come over to the menu and use my fader setup to make this happen. I'm just going to turn all of these to nothing because I just want to see my recording channels on the first layer, and I want to see my playback channels on the second layer. And like I said, the reason for doing this is because you don't have to have 2 different setups, and as you're mixing the instruments together while you're recording them, you can already be kind of mixing your show. It gives you the ability to be thinking in terms of live at the same time, and you can even use the effects on the board at the same time instead of using effects in the console, which I kind of prefer because Soundcraft console has some really excellent effects. The lexicon stuff is really what you're wanting to use, even if you have, the software component of it. So the first fader layer here is showing 1 through 16, and I'm going to come over here to fader layer B, and I'm just going to start at 17 now and give me my return layers. And the reason why it starts at 17 is because I want to have 1 through 16 be my input channels that I'm recording to, and then I want 17 through 32 to be my return channels from Logic. Let me just finish that up real fast all the way up to 32. And as I'm doing this, I will say I'm going to be keeping the effects on this layer over there on the right side, because if I move them to another layer, then it kind of defeats the purpose of having this set up as a live layer, because this could be considered your live layer. And if you I don't want to use stereo, use this as your live layer, then you're going to find yourself in a position of just being more ready for your show, having practiced with whatever it is that you're mixing in the studio. And especially if you're making electronic music and you have a loud system already to like play back on when you're making music, you can really get a feel for what you're going to be doing while you're making it. Which a lot of people really kind of strive for. You really don't want to have a different sound that you make in the studio and then you go play it on a stage and all of a sudden it's either weak or it's too boomy or one or the other or somewhere in between it. So let me get to this last channel here. So 31 all the way up to 32. Do that again. Okay, so now our second layer here is 17 through 32. So these are going to be the outputs 1 through 16 of the channels on Logic. I'll get to that in just a moment, explain it a little further. Go back to layer A here. Remember, as we go through this, that each channel is just replicating a basic concept. I know this is basic stuff, but I want people to understand. It's just every channel is one input and output. That's the purpose of a channel. It's just to take one in and send it somewhere. And a lot of times you send a lot of them to the same place, which is what you're doing when you mix for like a live show. You're only sending it to 2 speakers. So I'm going to walk over here to the computer now, where I'm sharing my screen, and hopefully you guys can see that. If not, I'll go through that again. But what you would like to do is, now that you can see my screen on Logic, you're going to actually take audio input 1 as your first channel. You're going to open up channels. You want to create new channels. This is just a blank DAW. You're going to start with audio input 1 from the USB card, and it's going to output to 1, but you're going to make them go up in ascending order both directions. So you want to create 16 tracks, because remember we have 16 channels that are recording from the first layer. So now you see they're all record ready, because as I record stuff, I will just be able to monitor them back onto fader layer B. So you want to have input monitoring on, you want to have your record stuff going, you just want to have these channels able to pass through. And let me show you, this is the actual arrange window in Logic, but there's a mixer window in Logic, which makes it look a lot more like what we're looking at over there on the camera. So if you come here, let me annotate on the screen a little bit. Right here and right here, your input and your output, this is the exact 2 settings that we just changed on the Soundcraft. So you want your input to be coming from what would be the output of the board is 33. Remember, since it's USB, it's the second block of the 64 starting at 33. So channel 1 is 33 of the board. Same with the output here. Output 1 on Logic is actually 33 on the board. So this channel is going to come in from fader layer A. That's where it's going to get its information. And then it's going to send its information to fader layer B, channel 17, because we had it set up as 33. So now that the basic concept of how that is working is going to go down, you can, at this point, begin to record whatever you'd like. So I'm just going to very quickly track something here so you can see what happens both from the side of the board and Logic. So let me see if I stop sharing, I might get my camera a little larger on everybody's screen. So let me do that real fast. Make sure that works. Laura, is that okay? Everybody see my camera full screen now?
Yep, if people want to view it in a bigger screen, that thumbnail is expandable, so you can make that screen.
Well, then let me just go back to having both of them going so we don't have to mix that up again. All right, so as I go back over to the console, I've got a DI box set up right here, and I can just plug in my guitar to it. Let me make sure I've got the right channel plugged in here. Going into channel 1, actually channel 2. I'm going to plug in this into channel 1, and then I'm just going to plug in my guitar, and we'll be able to track it real quick. See the faders or see the meters moving and make sure that we're doing everything that needs to be done. Make sure it doesn't hit my microphone. So if I basically come over to Logic and I hit record, all of my tracks are armed, so you see they're all giving me audio. I don't necessarily need to do that because I'm just recording track 1, but it's good practice if you're recording a band or you've got lots of projects, just record everything and delete it later. So I've got my instrument here plugged in, and I want to just get a real basic make sure I've got some information coming out of here. It looks like I do. So once I'm recording, you can see on my screen I'm starting to get some audio coming in on channel 1 right there. And that's really what I want. So, there's nothing that really matters about what I'm playing right now. We're just trying to get the sound going, so I'll let that be my song for that track. So once we have that, like I said, you can come back here and let's just get rid of all these other things we didn't record. And yeah, we don't need them. And this right here is our track now. So we just recorded channel 1. Now, as I go back here, I can give myself just a loop of it so I have full metering real quick. You guys can't hear that. Many people would want to. We'll go ahead and pass that by. But as you see, now I'm going to come over here to layer B. And because I have the record enabled, it's actually not going to spit out output of the track real fast. So now we should see this come back in on channel 17 if we did this the right way. Let me see. Yep, so we're going to need to patch in. We skipped this part. The input patch here is going to need to be our 33, like I was saying earlier. So now we'll see MADI USB 33. Remember, it's channel 1. That's coming from output 1 of Logic. And now we have audio coming up on channel 1. So we have this track coming in on this layer, and we can send it out wherever we want. If we want to turn up our master output, this is now our live show. So we're now mixing our live show, even though we're in the process of recording. As I turn up fader layer B and we're monitoring what I'm recording, that's becoming our live mix. So I'm now going to just come here and add whatever instruments, let's say, that I need. We know we're going to need a drum kit, so let's throw a backbeat in there, and one thing that we should note as you're doing this, sometimes you throw a track in like that from a sample or something, almost always, and it actually comes in as a stereo track. And let me explain that here, a little annotation on the Logic screen. If you're looking here, the channel I just dropped that track on from the loops, it actually gave me input 1 and 2, and it gave me a stereo out. But I want just a single output because all of my channels over here they're mono. You see, this is just a single meter, and there's actually 2 meters stacked next to each other here. So this is actually 2 channels, and this is just 1 channel. So I need to make this channel here have just 1 channel. And really, it's more so on the output side because I'm not actually recording anything there. In fact, this doesn't need an input. That would be coming from the XLR inputs of the back of the board, and I do not need that. So I'm just going to leave that out and give me my output of basically wherever I want it to go on the board. Now I could leave it as a stereo track, and I could send it to, if it's stereo output, that would be basically that's 33, 34. Output 3/4 is 35, 36, and so forth as you go down. So I could put this and leave it on a stereo track, or I could leave it as a mono track. If we want to go to stereo track, let me just do that. We'll go to output 3/4. So output 3/4 is going to come up, if you do the math, it's going to be 33, 34, 35, and 36. It's going to be 35 and 36. So I want to have 35 and 36 on the board coming down channels 19 and 20. So 35 and 36 is what on the DAW is 3 and 4. So we want to have, as you look at it right here, you can even count in blocks of 8. It makes it kind of easy. It's 1, 2, 3, and then 4. Of course, we'll need to go down here to this card. And the reason why I'm not doing the auto fill here is because 35 and 36 is because sometimes you want to mix it up. Sometimes you want to have different channels come in. So, like maybe I wanted to have those drums actually show up on 17 and 18. Well, you can mix that up. You can have any input from Logic come down any channel here. It's just a matter of understanding the routing, understanding that 33 is channel 1. You're just shifting down. The first 32 is MADI and only MADI, and the last 33 to 64 is just USB. So once you wrap your head around that, it becomes a much simpler concept because you're not talking in terms of 33 and 34 and 35 and 36. Really, we're just saying right here, 33 is really 1, 34 is really 2. So you can even just, you're visually doing that as you go along. You know, it's 1, 2, 3, 4. They're blocks of 8. It makes it easy. So now that I've got those drums going, I can come over here, push play in Logic, and you see I've got now meters coming in to 19 and 20. I can pull my drums into the mix. I can, at this point, also link these channels together. I can make them a stereo channel as well, 19 and 20, so that as I'm recording them and changing them like a stereo channel in Logic, I can do that with the console as well. So I'm going to link these two channels, and you see they light up white, which is one of the things I love about this console, the colors of everything. You always know what you're doing because everything changes color. When I first bought this console, it was really not a impulse buy. It was more of a, well, this has everything that you could ever ask for, and I had already had a chance to work on an expression, and when I did that, I sat down with it for maybe an hour, and it was the fastest I had ever really learned how to, really the fastest I had ever really been able to learn how to sit behind a console and make it work and get the sound that I wanted to. And I think it was a mixture of the preamplifiers that this console has. They're really high quality, and a lot of times people don't think that matters, but once you get deep into sound and you get to a certain level where you just can't push it any further, you don't have the dynamic range that you need, and these preamps really supersede everything else in the price range as far as this console goes. Also, it's got, you know, this DBX compression, which is essentially it's a 160, you know, and that was one of the most live compressors sought after of all time. They still sell, so people still buy them. And then you have, on this console, it's got the fully parametric EQ. The expression didn't. I'm glad they moved it up where there's the fully parametric. It's awesome. And you've got the channel strips on each one. The colors, like I said, is great. The lexicon effects is awesome. Everything about the console has got extra stuff that you don't usually get from a console of this size. So I'm using it to record, not because, well, this is a great board and I like using it and it's one of the few I can get my hands on. Like, actually, this is, as far as preamps goes and as far as a studio interface goes, this is probably the best bang for your buck. If you go out and try and buy a studio interface nowadays, they're, you know, for a really high quality one, they're hundreds and hundreds of dollars, and you're getting less, you know, you're getting like 8 inputs. So if you're getting 32 inputs here, if you're getting already 4, you need 32 channels, you're already spending about the same amount as most interfaces cost, but it's they're high-end live preamps, as well as having this background of being Soundcraft and Studer and BSS and all this amazing stuff. So aside from that, you've got the ability now to add these effects. So I've got drums going, I've got, you know, my guitar going. Once I add more instruments, you know, we can throw in whatever else to whatever other channels. We'll start dialing in our whole mix here. Once that mix is all dialed in, maybe we're going to want to add effects. Well, the cool thing is we can now just use these same effects on the board and we can just go straight for it. We can just turn up our stereo outs here. We can make sure our effects are doing what we want, you know, small hall, large hall, you know, delay, all those different things that you'd normally want to have, and then dial in each mix, and now you've got it. And you can also mix monitors with the mixes as well. So if you got say your whole band uses in-ear monitors, or even if you're just a DJ who uses a couple of different monitors on stage, like say you get up with a microphone and you go out in front of the DJ stand, like you can have like your front monitors that you're mixing yourself, and you have your microphone that you know how they feed back with your monitors, and you know there's a lot of cool stuff you can do in that respect. But one other thing I wanted to show before I wrap up with the audio there is the actual software instruments. So if you wanted to add something that wasn't necessarily a recorded track, which is pretty common, say you're wanting to add a drum machine or something, well, it's pretty simple. You kind of just go about it the same way. If you really just use the same ideas of routing that we had, I'll just delete those last two channels, and I'll add a new track that will be a software instrument. We can use anything that people tend to like. Say we use a multi-output, if you like multi-output stuff, and just route each output to whatever you want it to come out on the board. If we just go with a basic drum kit designer that Logic has. Now, whatever this plays it has its own outputs as well. And if it's a multi-out, which we could do here, you just create more tracks that show more outputs. I'll come over here. If you look down here, let me annotate this little key here. Logic has a cool button that allows you to just add on top of your software instruments, but that's not always the best thing to do. What it's adding is they're actually auxiliary tracks, but auxiliary tracks and audio tracks are pretty much the same thing. They're just a system of taking some input data and outputting it somewhere else. So you just want it to find where you'd like that to go. So as you go down, obviously we're running out of output or running out of channels here, but we can continue running out of the outputs down there. We'll just keep going up, 17, 18, 19, 20. You can change these to mono tracks. These could be anything else that you need to do. And as you go, you're looking at essentially as many tracks as you can fill up on that board. And now once you start going above track 16, you're going to be having to collapse onto your input tracks, because there's only the 32 tracks to actually mix on the console, which is not necessarily limiting because you're not going to be recording live, so you can just remember to change that. But most people aren't going to have more than 16 tracks, to be completely honest with you. 16 tracks is kind of you're getting close to the top. If you're doing something else there, you're doing it live, you can pretty much stem it down. Make sure you're just doing some mixing in the box with the DAW. So once we have all of that put together, you're pretty much there. I guess at this point it would probably be good to start answering more questions, because there's really more of the theory behind it. And now I'm kind of curious as to what exactly people would want me to, what people would want me to actually explain.
Okay, I do have two questions for you. The first question is, which software is best for SI expression? So
the software is probably less important than the actual hardware of the computer itself, if that's what you're really concerned about. If you're using I could be using GarageBand right now. It doesn't necessarily have to be Logic. It could be Pro Tools. It could be, Studio One. It could be Ableton. It could be even Fruity Loops. Whatever has the ability to process input and output channels, you're good to go. Now, as far as what's best in my opinion, I think that Logic gives you the most free stuff when you first buy it. So like you have all the plugins that you need to run a full live show without having to go out and buy extra plugins. I know a lot of them are kind of doing that now, but Logic's are pretty comprehensive. I've made a lot of stuff with just using Logic stuff.
Okay, the next question is asking, can you use this process with Adobe Audition as well?
Adobe Audition?
Mm-hmm.
You should be able to use it with Adobe Audition just as well, because it allows you to route the inputs and outputs of a USB device. Anything that gives you control of the USB device will allow you to do this, just so long as you understand the basic concept of that 33 through 64 really are 1 through 32 while you're working in the USB world.
Okay, the next question is asking, what is DAA?
DAA? In regards to what? I did mention a DAW, if that's what you're talking about. like a digital audio workstation? Is that what you mean?
The question just said, what is DAA? Maybe they meant DAW. The person who submitted it, if you want to put a clarifying question, we can come back to that. So the next question is, can you tell me the patching routing again?
Patching and routing again, sure. So let me just walk over to the console to do that, because that's really where the more complicated side of it comes in. So let me just go to fader layer A, channel 1. We'll go right to the very beginning, top left. Let me get back to this screen here so I can show you what we're doing. So this channel will be for recording. So whatever you plug into microphone 1 to the console will record to Logic on channel 1, because remember, 33 through 64 is actually 1 through 32 in USB world. So this is the critical thing to understand. We start at 33 when we're interfacing with Logic or Pro Tools or whatever the USB device is that we have on the other end. We're working from 33 to 64. That's just a really important concept to understand, because now once we've done that, the input and output of Logic will be 33. So whatever is coming out of whatever's coming out of output 1, as we move over if we go over to Logic now, I guess, let me walk over here to Logic. That channel number 1, it's going in. It's got input number 1, which is coming from 33. Input number 1 number is 33 of the Soundcraft. 33 on the Soundcraft is input 1 on Logic. Output 1 right here is also 33 on the Soundcraft. So when we come over to fader layer B, which I'll do here, let me zoom back out. Fader layer B, where we have our mix for our live stuff, channel 17 over here, which we've made happen because we did the fader change where 1 through 16 is on fader layer A, 1 through 16. On fader layer B, 1 through 16 is actually 17 through 32. So channel 17, as we select this, is going to now take its input from 33, which I'll show you here on screen again. So that is output 33 is output 1 of Logic. So this channel 17 right here, channel 17, is getting 33 from the board. So as I come over here to Logic now, whatever I have, as I annotate this one last time here, this channel is actually 33 coming from the Soundcraft. These two channels. So it's just important to keep that in mind.
Okay, you ready for the next question?
Yes.
All right, the next question is asking if this can be used in Windows or Mac.
Yeah, it should be able to be used for both. Any device that'll take in a USB. It's not specific to either Apple or Windows.
Okay, the next question is asking, why not use Dante card, then the MIDI card?
So the Soundcraft comes with this MADI USB card. So if you were using Dante, you could do the same thing. In fact, I've done this with Dante many times. It's just the protocol for using the Soundcraft I really enjoy because it's USB and it's just simple, it's quick. You don't have to, you know, with Dante a lot of times you have to put a switch in line, you have to make sure everything's IP address is correct, and with USB that just happens for you. And really USB kind of is MIDI in a sense, because it's such a basic protocol. You can kind of send a MIDI down anything.
Okay, it looks like that was the last question that came in. Did you have anything else that you wanted to go over, Ryan?
I think that was pretty much the majority of what I think needed to be explained. The important thing to remember is that you need to save these scenes as you go and name the channels as you go. I didn't do that because I was trying to keep the theory more at the forefront here than the actual console stuff, but you really want to name everything as you go, or otherwise you're looking at something that's kind of confusing for you. That's a really important part of interfacing with a DAW. Besides that, you just have to understand that concept. It almost helps to just always consider 33 as a possible one. Even Dante does that sometimes, actually, to the person who has Dante. Sometimes you have to, as you're interfacing with devices, start at 33 to get to channel 1 because the first 32 are set aside specifically for another device, and it just knocks you back to the next one. That kind of stuff happens all the time. 33 is a good number to know that you start. It's a common thing. 32 channels is where we're working at right now. X32, did their thing, and the Soundcraft has 32 channels. Every other console out right now has 32 channels. So 32 is where we're looking at. So if you think of everything as 32, because that's the maximum amount of channels you need to mix for live, then everything beyond 32 is for the digital realm. So 33 to 64 is more for routing things in the digital world. That's a big one. But besides that, I don't know if there's really too much more to explain. That's kind of the gist of it. I could maybe repeat the process again.
No, there's a couple more questions that came in actually when you're going over that.
Sure.
The next question is, can the lexicon effects on the console physical channel be imported into the DAW?
Oh yeah, that's a great question. So sure, as you let me just show you how you do that real quickly with maybe these drums. So I'm going to record the output of the reverb from the board to Logic using channel 3 here. So channel 3, let's not use channel 3 because that's coming out of there. We're going to go to channel, we're going to start at channel 1 just so, because we don't need to worry about this original recording. We're just going to keep it simple. This one drum beat here, we want to get the reverb from that. So this is going to come down 35 and 36 on the board. And then we're going to take this channel here, and it's going to take the reverb out. So input 1, how do we get input 1 to the board? Well, we just need to find whatever channel it is that we're looking for. So in this case, we're looking for the FX channel. So on fader layer B, which is where your stereo returns come back, which is where your effects returns actually come in. You take those channels, so I'm going to select, say, stereo 1, which is your effects, which is actually effects return 1 on the board. If you've used the Soundcraft, you understand this concept that stereo 1 is where your effects come back. You have an effects channel here. You see effects 1, but this isn't outputting anywhere. You can make it output, but we're going to use, since we want to record it like we're recording the live show, we're going to use these stereo live returns to record. So the outputs for this one, oh, actually, you know what? I had that backwards. I'm sorry. I had it right. I had it right when I was saying what was wrong was wrong. The actual mix channels, these are the ones that output. So the output patch here is just going to simply be, if we say we want to record on whatever's coming down MADI channel 33, which is channel 1 on Logic, we will patch FX1's output to, see here, I'll show that one more time, FX1, its output will be going to USB card 33, and then we'll come over here to the board, we'll select channel here, and we want input 1, that's 33. Because remember the board on Logic, you're 1 through 32, which is actually 33 through 64. So confusing, but it makes sense when the consoles, when you're sending it when you're in Logic, 33 through 64. It's just the digital 33 through 64 is the digital world. So now that we've got that, I can come over here to my returned channels from the drums, because this has to happen beforehand. So on the channels that have come back from Logic after we've recorded them, so this track right here, it has the output coming down, output 3 and 4, and we have output 3 and 4 coming down to the channel on the Soundcraft right here, 1920, on fader layer B. So we're going to take fader layer B, this channel, and we're going to send FX1, where we kind of did it earlier, to it. Now when we hit spacebar, we should actually see this come back to the channel. What is too crazy with that? We'll actually see it. We'll see the reverb come back to the channel when we hit spacebar here. You see it coming back and monitoring, and now we're actually we're not sending this back to the board if we send no output here, because we just want to record channel 1. So this channel, input 1 right here, is taking its input from FX1 on the board that's on fader layer C. Its output is 33. So, but it can be whatever, just 33 is number 1, so I'm keeping this simple. Its output is 33, so that when you come over here to the board, whatever channel you set as input 1, when you hit record, it'll record that. So now that I have it going, I hit record, and it is recording my reverb. And once the track is done playing, you hit spacebar, and remember, I just recorded all these other extra tracks because that's just the audio guy in me. But I want to just only have this top one here, which that is my reverb. So now that's the lexicon. This is now lexicon, which I would probably want to name. And that's that. Does that kind of make sense? Did I explain that well enough? That's the main concept there.
Okay, we had another question come in asking, what about connecting waves to the desk?
Connecting waves to the desk. So waves allows you to do it, plugins inside of Logic, if that's what you mean. Now you can just simply open up a Waves plugin, like I've got Waves, so I can just open up a Waves plugin. Like say I wanted to add, some really awesome, whatever to what I'm trying to do. I'd open up a Waves plugin. So if it's a Waves server, yeah, okay. So if it's a Waves server, you want to do the same type of, well, I don't think a Wave server would work, because a Wave server is a different type of protocol. A Wave server kind of needs the Waves card. This is more MADI and USB. If you were to be using Waves in a Wave server, you would just need to simply use it inside of whatever DAW you're using, or I know that Waves has their, I can't remember off the top of my head, but they have like a mixer that allows you to route their plugins how you want them. That's kind of my understanding of what you would do for the server side of it. And I'm not sure. I don't know if Soundcraft has a Waves card. Yeah, there are many mixers that have Wave cards.
So we have Tom Durr on the line. Tom, did you want to add anything to that?
Can you hear me now? Perfect.
Yep, there you go.
Sorry, I muted myself. Yeah, a couple of comments. If you're using Waves multi-rack, which is their sort of native-based PC, if you will, processing, you could connect to the Waves server just via USB. The multi-rack has a certain amount of latency on it, so it may or may not work in a live situation depending on the plugin. They also have a lower latency setup called DigiGrid or something to that effect, where you can put a fiber optic MADI card in the console and then go to one of their interface boxes. In this case, you'd need the Waves MGO interface to allow the fiber optic MADI to get into the Waves, SoundGrid, that's what I was trying to think of, SoundGrid server, and that would have lower latency and would get into their more professional application. The multi-rack is more, it's usable, but does have some latency issues that may arise. Also, while I'm talking, the reason you have to, just to clarify on, which Ryan has already talked about, one of the reasons you have to do this sort of offset of your channels is that on this, the Impact that Ryan's using to demonstrate has a USB MADI card that has first 32 channels are Cat5 MADI that are designed to be used with one of our digital snakes or stage boxes. The second set of 32, which basically is why we start at 33 for the USB, is designed for USB record, playback, or interface to some sort of USB plug-in engine. If you were not using the stage box, it is possible to change the dip switches on that card to have the USB outputs and inputs on 1 through 32. So if you really didn't feel like doing the math, you could, and you weren't using a stage box, you could change the card setup to where USB in and out was on 1 to 32 without having to do the offset. So that's my 2 cents.
Okay, let's see here. Just one more question. How is different MADI USB combo versus multi-digital?
I'm sorry, can you repeat that?
I'm trying to make sense of the question.
Yeah.
Do you see it, Tom?
I don't see the question, but I understand the question. So basically, we make 2 different cards. One's a MADI USB combo card, which again, as we just discussed, has 32 channels of MADI on on Cat5, and then 32 channels of USB on the on a USB connector, of course. The multi-digital card preceded this card and has 32 channels. Again, it's been a while since I've looked at the card, but I think it's got 32 channels of USB. Actually, is it USB interface? Oh, bear with me one second. Let me fact check myself. It has the multi-digital has 8 inputs and outputs on ADAT type connector, and sorry, now it comes back to me. The remaining 32 by 32 are on FireWire. So, back in the day, FireWire wasn't that uncommon of interface, particularly to Macs and other recording devices. So this allowed us a card to generate record feeds using FireWire. Obviously, as time has gone on, FireWire has gone by the roadside and is becoming more or less obsolete, and USB and Dante and other sort of formats have taken over. So the difference is that the multi-digital card is a FireWire-based predominantly card with 32 channels in and out on FireWire and 8 channels in and out on ADAT. And so that's the difference.
Okay, thanks for that, Tom. It looks like that's it for the questions that have come in. So Ryan, thank you so much for the presentation. Tom, thank you for assisting with the questions. And if anybody's interested in upcoming sessions, you can go to pro.harman.com and see the full calendar there. Thanks everybody for attending, and have a great weekend.